Revelation chapter 4. In the last few verses of it talks about what happens when this song of worship is sung. When the words, "Holy, holy, holy is our Lord God Almighty, the one who always was, who is, and who is to come." It says, "Whenever the living beings give glory and honor and thanks to the one sitting on the throne, the one who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down and worship the one sitting on the throne, and the one who lives forever and ever, and they lay their crowns before the throne and say, 'You are worthy, O Lord, O God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things. They exist because you created what you pleased.'" God is pleased with what He created. And you are people of the plan. God's plan, God's people, God's stuff, God's place, all God's. You are people of the plan. Everybody here, people of the plan. And it has to do with His glory. It has to do with what He is doing, what He's orchestrating, not what I've created or what we have created or what we've done, but according to His good pleasure. I want to share something with you that just continues to blow my mind with what God did with this space. First and foremost, there's a bunch of brothers and sisters in Christ that you will probably be meeting soon. And in fact, in this particular story, they outnumber us. They are on the verge of being homeless as we were a few months ago. I received a message from the pastor this morning, and he's like, "Dale, what do we do?" And I said, "Well, we had that question not long ago." And so, encouraging and watching this, and God is doing a great work in that. It's God's good pleasure. What He creates, what He builds, what He's doing. It felt so good to encourage and to share the story about what God... I want to remind you something. Let me tell you something about what occurred. When we had a real estate committee that met endlessly, we met day after day after day for several years, I think. It seemed like it was never going to stop, and we were formulating this plan, and we went through this checklist of the things that we need. Brenda's smiling because she went through this too. And because Steve's back there is probably joking with her, but other than that, we're good. And so we were like, we need something that is no less than 20,000 square feet. These are things that we are not compromising. This is the stuff that we have to have. We have to have a commercial kitchen. I mean, we have these things, like, we still have that list somewhere. And so, yeah, Ron's got it. We went through painstaking process, like seeking God, wanting to make sure our motives were right, wanting to make sure that we were doing what God wanted us to do. And in doing that, we had this idea about what it was supposed to be. Well, I don't know, this is not really 100 or 20,000 square feet. There's not really a commercial kitchen going on here. We got a coffee pot.
We'll just take a furnace.
And so God brings us to the place where we've stepped away from what we had, and we don't have a place to move into, and within a short period of time, He hands us this place. And now let me tell you where He's at right now on this. Brenda was contacted by the owner of the property. We didn't contact him and ask for anything. This is the way God's been working. And so he tells Brenda, he's like, "Hey, would it be okay if we only charged you $1,000 a month rent until I'm all done with the work that I'm doing?" So we're supposed to be paying $22.50 a month. And so he goes, I'm just wondering, could we change that contract where you only pay $1,000 a month? Did what? What? If God is doing it, it's going to be amazing. I don't know if there's a 20,000 square foot building in our future. Right now, at this point in time, I don't care. God is giving us everything that we need for right now. And if we need something tomorrow, He'll give us what we need tomorrow. And so on and so forth, all the way on through. When God does it, it's according to His good pleasure. You'll notice on the door over here the word hub. I don't want ever, again, for myself and hopefully for us, make the mistake of calling the building where we meet the church. I don't ever want to fall into that ever again. It's too painful to separate from that thinking. You are the house that God is building up. You are the spiritual house of God. You, every single one of you, the people of the plan. You are His house. So much better than bricks and stone and boards and wood and all those things. And you are the house that He went to great lengths to make sure that it was secured for eternity. You're not a temporary house. Jesus made the provision so that His house in all of you would last forever. Is that awesome? It's awesome. It's fine. I'll be all right. Yeah. I'm always going on trips. I'm always going on trips. Do you remember that? Do you remember that time when I didn't really know how to preach much? I mean, like today, but only worse. And I brought the big ladder up front. Were any of you there that week at our old location? And I climbed up to the top of it. Simona didn't like that. She didn't remember anything I said because she was just nervous I was going to fall off. So I won't do that. So if this makes it so you can't hear what God is giving us, then I'll go someplace else over here or whatever. So if you're worried about me tripping, we'll settle that, all right? I woke up this morning to my beautiful bride's voice saying, "Dale, it's time to get up. I'm making coffee." Now, those are pretty good words. So I get up and I go and I move to our, I don't know if you can call it a bedroom. It's where the bed is, so I guess it's a bedroom. It's a weird room. I moved from a few feet from where I got out of bed over to my desk, which could be the office, I guess. The office sits in front of a sliding glass door that I'm not sure why it's there, so now we just use that as a wall. Because I need privacy in my office, you know. And I sat down, and I turned on my computer, and then I just went like this, and I opened my Bible, and I said, "God, what do you got?" And where He took me was Nehemiah chapter 1. Nehemiah chapter 1. Let's go there. In Nehemiah chapter 1, I love this story about how God begins to work in his life. Now imagine being a cupbearer and then becoming a construction superintendent. From being one, this is your job, is to bring wine to the king. Bringing the goblet of wine to the king, day in and day out. When the king wants some more wine, you bring him his wine. 20 years. Now, I don't know about in your world, but when we talk about prerequisites, When we talk about, the things that you'd say, well, this is your track in life. We look at young people and go, if you want to become a doctor, you need to do, and you take this route and you do this, you do that. We have these very distinct courses that we mark out for ourselves. As churches, it's no different. We have visioning ideas that we get together and we go, this is what we're marking out, this is what we're doing, here's the path, this is how we're going to get there. The fascinating thing that I see with God is that it's not always like that. That God goes, if I want someone to be a construction expert that is going to oversee the entire job, the remodeling job, I want a guy that serves wine. Isn't that who you would choose? We are people of the plan. And God will do the choosing as to whom He puts in the places of expertise. Doesn't always look the way we think it might look. So Nehemiah is very specific in the time of the rebuilding, late autumn, the month of Kislev, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, and he was in the fortress. And one of his brothers comes to visit him, and he asks how things are going back in Jerusalem, and he goes, it's not good, it's very troubling, it's disgraceful.
What verse are you on?
I'm now moving into verse 4.
Nehemiah 2.
Nehemiah 1. And verse 4 is what we're going to move into. Then we're going to go into Nehemiah chapter 2 in a bit. All right, sorry about that. You guys got to keep me on my game here. Yeah. Half the time I don't know where I'm going. So.
No.
Verse 4 it says, when I heard this, I sat down and wept. Something came over him. He's like, this is not okay. In fact, for days I mourned and fasted and I prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said, here's what's interesting. It says that he prayed for days and then he said. Like, what was he saying all those other days? I have questions about some of these things. But apparently, he just had a lot of blah, 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 blah. Oh my word, God, this isn't right, and all of that. And then he comes to this place where he goes to get real. And he says, O Lord of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of unfailing love with those who love him and obey his commands. So he goes, God is faithful, God keeps his commandments, God keeps his commitments, God keeps his covenants, God keeps his deal with you, God keeps his deal with all of us. And then he goes, but we have broken our deal with you. My family has broken my deal with you. I have broken my deal with you. So he comes to this place where he goes, God, you don't break your deals, we break our deals. I'm wondering if anyone is here today that has ever said, God, if you will do this, I'll never do that again. Just do that one thing. So that's not what's going on with Nehemiah. Nehemiah is saying, God, you're faithful, we were not. He's not saying, God, go do this because I'm going to be faithful. He's saying, it goes without saying that we have not kept up our part. Aren't you glad that our God doesn't base his covenant upon your ability to keep it up? That's awesome news. So he picks it up here in verse 8. And he says, please remember what you told your servant Moses. So he brings it back and he goes, God, remember what you said. We've already admitted where we're at. If you are unfaithful to me, I will scatter you among the nations. So now he goes, this is where we're at. But if you return to me and obey my commands and live by them, then even if you are exiled in the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I have chosen for my name to be honored. The people you rescued by your great power, strong hand are your servants. O Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart to be kind to me. And it says, in those days, I was the king's cupbearer. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
That'd be an easy job.
What kind of wine would you like today, my king? I wonder if they went by years then. Like, you know, I would like a...
1675.
Yeah. I'd like an early post Noah. I want something to yeah. That was good.
I don't think it lasted that long.
No? You know, the wineskins had a little trouble keeping it that long? So this is in the autumn. He's praying like this. In the spring. So there's a winter. The winter months are occurring early the following spring in the month of Nisan. During the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was serving the king his wine. I had never before appeared sad in his presence, so the king asked me, "Why are you looking sad? You don't look sick to me. You must be deeply troubled." He had this incredible rapport with the king. The rapport was built by consistent serving and presentation and being pleasant in the process. So that something in his demeanor became quite obvious to the king. And so, the next thing happened, and this is what often happens to us. I was talking to Liz while we were singing. That's coming too often. I'm sorry about that. But she was saying that a church that she also is affiliated with, she has dual citizenship, and that's cool, that they're going through experiencing God. I mean, like they're going through the lesson of experiencing God. And of course, in that, they're experiencing God. And the great thing is that you experience God. The terrifying thing is that you're going to experience God. Those are the things that are the dilemma. And so the cupbearer, all of a sudden, the king is now putting the focus upon him. The focus has always been on the king. The focus has always been coming. Your Honor, here's your post-Noah wine. And now all of a sudden the king is like, well, wait, I'm not worried about my wine, I'm worried about you. When somebody that is in great authority all of a sudden points you out as the person of interest, it gets different. Like when you have the blue and red lights that are now focusing upon you as the person of interest. And you only hope that our brother Tim is back on the force and he's the friendly face that comes up to your door. It's like, my brother Tim, please, really, it was okay. I was trying to get the prayer meeting. It's okay.
There's a bunch of sinners there now.
That's right. It's an emergency. He becomes the object of attention. And so the first thing the enemy does, I want you to know this, the terrifying thing didn't come from the king. The terrifying thing did not come from the cupbearer, Nehemiah. The terrifying part came from the enemy immediately. When God is going to do something, the enemy will try to interject his tactic of fear. He wanted to cut this conversation off. Because if this conversation moves forward, something incredible happens. I plead with you, don't let the fear brought on by the enemy ever direct even one step in your life? Not a single step. A step provoked by the enemy via fear is always a step in the wrong direction. Not saying God doesn't keep working with that, because He does. Otherwise, we wouldn't really even be functioning at all, because I think I can go out on a limb and say that most of us have probably done just that. I have. God, you really want me to go do that? Because if I go do that, then there's these other things that might occur. I don't know if they'll occur, but they might, and in my mind, I think they will. When the king focuses upon me and says, you're sad, now all of a sudden, does that mean that I get my head cut off because I'm not a pleasant server? In those days, that could be a possibility. I don't want just my wine. I want my wine with a smile. The enemy will place all kinds of things in our head. Don't forget that He created you according to His good pleasure. You are His masterpiece. We can have a masterpiece theater, Liz. Right? A whole new kind. She made eye contact. I saw it. Masterpiece theater. It says he was terrified, but instead of acting upon the terror, he focuses back on the king and he replies, "Long live the king. How can I not be sad?" That's a gutsy move. Check out this gutsy move. "For the city where my ancestors are buried is in ruins, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." Oh, I wonder how that happened. I wonder what that was from. And so the king asked, "How can I help you?" What? When God decides that it's time, it's time. When God decides it's time, He can bring a guy that we still don't know if he's even has any values like we do as far as Christians, except for that he does share those values. We see the fruit of that, but we don't know anything about the man that builds this building, except for he keeps expressing things as gifts from God without us asking. He asked us, "Would it be okay if I lowered your rent?" That's crazy, guys. Come on. In what world?
Right?
Doesn't make sense. Forget my wine today, Nehemiah. I can hear him saying, "Right now I want to know what I can do to help you." It's amazing. So, with a prayer to God of heaven, I replied, check it out. Pray without ceasing. People of the plan, pray without ceasing. Never stop. He's praying as he's replying. He's in the presence of the king and he's going, "King, real king, King, Lord of lords, King of kings, the true king, give me the words to speak." Do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Neither do I. Isn't that okay? It's okay. With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, "If it please the king," he's respectful, "and if you are pleased with me, your servant," takes the humble stance. "If you're pleased with me, your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried. The king, now with the queen, sitting there. Now this is intense. Right? The queen is there and they ask, how long will you be gone? When will you return? That's a long time without wine. After I told him how long I would be gone, the king agreed to my request. I also said to the king, if it please the king, why would this is interesting. If it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely through their territory on my way to Judah. And please give me a letter addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's force, instructing him to give me timber. I will need to take beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself. Whoa, wait, what? I thought you were coming back to serve wine. So he's like in front of the king and queen, and he goes, well, yeah, but I need a house too. Come on. When God builds stuff, it doesn't matter where the resources are coming from. There was a story a while back where there was a person that was passionate about a Christian school. They happened to be a person high up in a Native American casino. And they said, look, we have all of this money in the school, which we value, which we send some of our children to. We'd like to see a major upgrade in it, and it would be really nice if we could express our gratitude by giving you some funds to build a new school. Well, that didn't happen. The resources came from the wrong place. Imagine the kingdom that took God's people into captivity. If there was a wrong place for resources, that might be it. From the king's resources, he goes, look, I'm going to need some timber. I'm going to need a house. I'm going to need some stuff. Not asking you to do it, king, but I need some help. And the king granted these requests because the gracious hand of God was on me. Is the gracious hand of God on you? You are people of the planet. Is His grace upon you? Is His grace upon us? Is there anything that we could do that He is unable to provide for? For the people whose hand of grace is upon. Don't forget this. Remind me. And when God gives a gift, it's the perfect gift for us. So when he came to the verse 9, when he came to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, I delivered the king's letters to them. The king, I should add, which is great, he adds this little, and by the way, had sent along army officers and horsemen to protect me. But when Sanballat, the Honorite, the Tobiah, the Ammonite official, heard of my arrival, they were very displeased that someone had come to help the people of Israel. So I arrived in Jerusalem 3 days later. I slipped out during the night. He goes out and makes an assessment. He talks about all the gates. He comes out. It's so fun to read this and then think about how when we were there, we came in and out of these gates and we looked down into Gehenna, or so-called hell, from the dung gate. It doesn't really look like hell now. It's just kind of a grassy little like park area. And then he goes down through the Kidron Valley, it says, and he goes up through the valley and he comes back up through the other gate. He does this at night and makes an assessment. And so, verse 16, the city officials did not know I had been out there or what I was doing. For I had not yet said anything to anyone about my plans. This is a cupbearer, guys. This is a guy that just serves wine to the king. He doesn't have really any authority. He doesn't really have any footing, except for this. The gracious hand of God was upon him. When the gracious hand of God is upon you, everything God has sent us out in His plan not only can, but will be accomplished. Might I add that if we won't look to the enemy to cause us fear, dare I say we'll have fun in the process. Come on, think about this. You go out in the middle of the night. This is like a kid's dream, only around the big, mighty city of Jerusalem. A kid's dream, like I'm sneaking out at night, I'm on my donkey, I'm heading down, I'm looking down over hell, Gehenna, and I'm cruising around. Let's not wake anybody up. And he's like cruising over that. Come on, that's fun. How could this not be fun? You've been stuck in the court of the king for all these years just taking wine, taking wine, taking wine. Now you got let out and you're going on an adventure seeking out to sea in the middle of the night. People of the plan can have fun. I want to ask you a question. How great is the gracious hand of God? Beyond measure. So as we read the worship song, the Revelation song, and we see that in the presence of this singing, they're beside themselves and they're like, all I can do is just lay myself before you and throw out my crown, because in your presence there's only one with royalty, even though we're the kids of royalty, making us royal kids. In the presence of that incredible, great graciousness. And in the courts of heaven, there's nothing to say. There's nothing except for just to go, oh my word. You always have been, you always will be. Your Lord, O Lord, your King of Kings. And your grace is upon me. Remember, grace is freedom. Your hand of freedom is upon me. I'm freed from being afraid. I'm freed from guilt. I'm freed from all those things that would keep me from working in the plan God has. You're seen as without blemish. You're seen as righteous, as being made right. You're made rightness. There's nothing to separate you and God because of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ, our brother, Savior. Cupbearer to a construction superintendent. Ron, would you hire him to build your houses?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's about the wine, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
Now, he was a lot more than a cupbearer.
He was.
He had a relationship with the king.
He did.
And the king's always with him.
It had way more than just serving wine to the king. There was more going on there. Yeah. Let's read on in the story. Verse 17, but now I said to them, you know very well what trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. Then I told them about how the gracious hand of God had been on me, and about my conversation with the king. They replied at once, yes, let's rebuild the wall. So they began the good work. They went from yes to beginning. Boom. And then there's one of those buts in the Bible, but we didn't put it there. Okay? But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, the Arab, heard of our plan, they scoffed contemptuously. What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king, they asked? I replied, the God of heaven will help us succeed. We, his servants, will start rebuilding this wall. And this is where we're going to end, guys. This is the picture of the enemy. Remember this about the enemy when he comes knocking on your door, when he comes taunting you, when he comes bringing guilt, when he comes bringing fear, when he comes bringing doubt. I want my brother to share a sermon on doubt. And he looked at me, so it's not. God's been talking to him about it. That's the right person to share the message. When the enemy starts bringing those things, remember this. But you have no share. He has no share in the hand of the grace of God. The enemy has no share in that. He has no legal right. He has no legal right to you. He has no legal right to that which God created. He has no share and there's no right. Come on, guys. You guys are special. You are people of the plan of God. That means something. It's a big deal. It's an incredible thing. And then he says, nor is there any historic claim in Jerusalem. So he goes, there's no share today, there's no legal right, and there's no precedent. There's nothing that set precedent to say that the enemy has any value in their claim to stop what God is doing. The enemy has no share in that. No legal right. No precedent. Let's not ever take a step forward by the motivation of the things of the enemy. Ever. We just operate as people of the plan under the gracious hand of God. That you are his masterpiece. You're perfect in Christ. And he gave us this perfect location where we get to launch out and do ministry from and have ministry come here and whatever. It's perfect, guys. It's perfect in every way. I know this because God gave it to us. It's exactly how it's supposed to be right now today. If that were not the case, it wouldn't be as it is today. Together, as people in this incredibly blessed and privileged place, can we encourage each other in these things? And let our focus be in the direction of the one who has his hand of grace on us, rather than the taunting of the enemy who has no share or legal right. Not only of this space, but of you. He has no right to you. Don't give yourself up to that. I think we should sing her. Is that good? I feel like I might start preaching or something, so I need to like.
Let's say you Tuesday. Let's say I need to